It's your summer. What the bird is barbecuing.
G'day jabronis, it is the Third, back with you again. Welcome here to our Week 6 Team Builder for the National Pokeball League. Your Tampa Bay Frogadiers going up against Asta J and the Montreal Habsols. Now Asta obviously is the new coach coming in replacing Togawa. Wishing him all the best for his first run here in the majors, hoping I can give him a warm welcome. Be that with a win or a loss, obviously we're out for a win, but as long as it's a good game, that's all good. But basically, if I sound a bit weird, it's because one, I've just woken up, and two, like literally after this Team Builder is recorded, I'm probably going to be playing Asta, so there is like a slight bit of nerves, just because after last week against Joel, I really wanted to prove myself again, and obviously it's tough because, like, I mean, Asta's team is pretty scary, as you can see, but also because it's his first game in the NPL, and I wanted him to be like a really memorable and special first game, so a lot of pressure there, but regardless, we're going to crack into this team. If you guys are excited for this match, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff, but as you know, when it comes to these team builders, I go pretty in-depth talking about why I brought certain sets. So yeah, we're going to kind of crack into it and see how it goes. But first and foremost here, we have Trish Strategy Arcanine. I needed to bring Arcanine in this matchup. It is easily my best Mega Mawile check. Now, initially this Arcanine actually had a lot more speed. It was actually designed to potentially outspeed a Diggersby. But then, after having a few mocks and looking at matchup, there was one Mawile set that was very, very annoying in this matchup, and that is Hypercutter Substitute, because Arcanine on that turn can come in against Mawile, cannot intimidate it, then it's behind a sub, and then it megas up and goes for Stone Edge, because I forgot the Mega Mawile got Stone Edge, so that's fucking terrifying. So that's why I have the Charty Berry on Arcanine. It basically handles everything that this Mawile can throw at me. If he goes for the sub and then goes for the Stone Edge, Arcanine's able to take it quite nicely because of how much defense investment I have. I can then fire off a Flamethrower and weaken this Mawile down, which is really, really nice for me in this matchup. And in the future as well, even though the Charty Berry has been used there, if Mawile goes for another substitute again, I can Morning Sun up, and Stone Edge is doing a good amount, but there is obviously the chance that he could miss and whatnot, so as long as I can keep my Arcanine relatively healthy against the Mawile, we should be in a pretty good spot against it in general. But it's a massive threat, guys. It's a Mega Mawile, so obviously Arcanine is not the only thing that can deal with it. However, it is the primary switch in. After Mega Mawile has Mega Evolved, it is a lot more consistent for Arcanine to be able to deal with it, I feel. Although Stone Edge is a threat, he has to kind of predict Arcanine to come in or go for a sub at -1, where I can obviously take the Stone Edge and then hurt him with the Flamethrower, and then he's constantly weakening himself down. So it's going to be an interesting little tussle with Mawile this week. Obviously I have other things on my team that can take it on, but Arcanine is the main kind of switch in. Now this Zygarde set, I'm not going to lie, I didn't initially think of this Zygarde set. I've always liked sets like this, but it wasn't my initial idea. But it was mentioned to me. And I don't know if the person who mentioned it wants to be named in the Team Builder, so it's fine. But they mentioned it to me, and I looked at it, and then I chucked in the EVs, and I'm like, this could actually really work. And that is this Zygarde set. So it's very similar to the Zygarde set I brought against Seb. The only difference being I'm running Camouflage over Protect. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because in this matchup, his best two counters to Zygarde on his team are Porygon 2 and Slowbro, both of which can take the DD set on perfectly fine, and that's annoying. So I was like, okay, how can I beat that? And the way I beat that is with this set. So basically the premise is, guys, 1000 Waves, as you should know by now, traps Pokemon in, doesn't let them switch, to which then I can go for either the sub or the Camouflage. So with the bulk that I have, I can basically sub straight up on Slowbro, because if he doesn't have special attack investment at all, then he is not able to break the sub ever. No attack Slowbro, sorry, no special attack Slowbro does 24 max to this Zygarde spread, which is great. And against the P2, I probably won't sub straight away. What I would do is go for Camouflage, because then P2's Ice Beam is not doing that much. And it also then means that P2, well, in general, P2's try attack, again, in the same situation as Slowbro, if he doesn't have the investment, it won't be able to break my sub. And if that's the case, guys, then I can just start spamming 1000 Waves, Toxic, and Substitute with my leftovers over and over again until they're dead. And that's really nice, because like when P2 goes down, it opens up a lot of doors for my team. When Slowbro goes down, it opens up a lot of doors for Arcanine, which is massive. So, in general, it's just really, really strong at trapping and killing. Also, it has the bulk though to take some hits from things. Like, with the camouflage as well, it means that Taunty can't just come straight into Revenge, because yes, I can click Superpower, but then I can just, you know, Toxic it and wear it down a bit more, even though it has the regen. There is that. And if he doesn't have the Superpower or the Focus Blast, then he's forced into either clicking Hurricane. He can't click Icy Wind against me. That's really good. It can still hit Diggersby and Mawile quite hard. So overall, just a really, really solid Zygarde set this matchup. I'm creeping Jolly Diggersby because I feel that the overall bulk is not just the be-all and end-all of Zygarde. Being able to come in against non-Scarf Diggersby and be able to either camouflage, predicting the potential Ice Punch, or just going straight up for 1000 Waves to get off as much chip as possible is really important. But moving on to the next mon on this team, we have Empoleon making its debut for the Frogadiers this week in a pretty unorthodox set. I would want to say it's very unorthodox, but I think in this matchup it works very, very well. In the same vein that a Zygarde can trap and be effective, this Empoleon doesn't necessarily trap, but it is incredibly effective. I will change one thing just because of the Zygarde set that I now have. I want to go back to Waterfall and Empoleon over Brick Break. Brick Break was mainly there because it was able to hit Porygon 2 as well as Pangoro. It actually O-code Pangoro at +2. But the thing now with the team and the way that it's being run is that I can kind of just bank on Waterfall, and Waterfall's better anyway because it prevents Mawile from just coming in for free and being able to sub up. With the Wakanberry, I can deal with basically any Mawile set that comes my way, so Empoleon is most likely going to be my lead of choice in this matchup. It's tricky though because like obviously if he leads Mawile, he could just go straight for the sub. At the same time though, I don't know if he will because he may fear the potential Scald from Empoleon. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays around that. But this is a really solid lead in general because if he leads Torn, I can just click Knock Off. If he leads Bro, I can again just click Knock Off, or I can just go for my Stealth Rocks, which are massive in this game. His only forms of hazard removal is Latios as default. That's the other reason why I have Wakan to deal with Latios as well as Rotom-Mow, Thunder Punch, Mega Mawile, or is it Thunder Fang? It's one of the two. If he's not running sub Focus Punch in this matchup, then it's just really solid there. But this set is really, really good. Like the SD is heavily underrated in this matchup, especially because if I get Grassy Terrain up, I'm not really threatened that much by Diggersby. I'm not threatened by too much on his team. Like most of his bulkier stuff I can just kind of SD up on and then run through. I have enough speed to creep Adamant Pangoro, so I can get up an SD and fire off an Adamant Waterfall that should do a really, really good amount to a lot of his team, even just standard to like Mawile. I punish the potential attempt at sub because then he might be able to, like that's the other thing with Empoleon guys, in this matchup because I have a bulky Zygarde and some other bulk on my team, there is the premise that if I really do fear Mawile early game, I can straight up just go for Waterfall as he goes into sub, break his sub as he potentially goes for Focus Punch, and then, you know, although Mawile will have killed Empoleon by then, it means that Mawile itself is now down to around 50 to 45%, and that means that it's not going to be as effective as a sub-attacking set. So there is that. There's that offensive pressure the Empoleon can also give, but just in general, very strong in this matchup, hitting hard. Comes in on Slowbro really nicely, and Knock Off is just such a clutch move. Speaking of Knock Off being a clutch move, now I know what you're thinking. It's a very bulky B, but there's a method to the madness. So the reason why I really want a bulky Beedrill was because I wanted to run T-Spikes, and in order to run T-Spikes on Beedrill, I feel the issue is if you run it incredibly aggressive, then there's not as much of a need for T-Spikes because you're better off just going for an attacking move. But with this Beedrill set this week, I'm not going as aggressive. I was contemplating going more aggressive, like having Poison Jab and Drill Run as my two attacking moves, because that hits Torn as well as obviously Drill Run hitting the Mawile, which is really good because obviously if he's not Scarf Torn, then I can just run through it with that. So there is that option for me to go with, and I do consider a lot, guys, because I can easily just change this Beedrill to Adamant. But the reason why I kind of like Roost and T-Spikes is it just covers a lot more of his threats. For instance, if he brings like the P2 and I'm struggling, well, that's the thing, like now I'm kind of contradicting myself, because initially the reason I had this Beedrill set designed this way was to help Zygarde sweep, but now Zygarde isn't necessarily sweeping. So I think what I actually might do, guys, is a little bit controversial to do during my team builder. 376, keep that in mind. But I'm actually going to change my Beedrill set in this team builder right now. I'm going to change it to this. Because, sorry, I'm going to change it to this. And the reason is, although the setup was really good, and T-Spikes are very good in this matchup, I already have Toxicon Arcanine, I already have Toxicon Zygarde, and they're going to be my main two mons that a lot of his defense switches into anyway, his grounded mons especially. And with the Adamant Adaptability Poison Jab, I could run through a lot of his team with this Beedrill set if he doesn't bring any like main Scarf mons, especially Torn. This is a really good way to revenge that. Also revenges Mawile, so this puts a lot of pressure on his team, and I feel like it would be silly if I'm not going to run an offensive Zygarde to run it this way, so I've got a bit more aggression in my team. But yeah, now, I guess the premise of this Beedrill, now that Zygarde is more defensively minded, trying to like trap and kill stuff, is Beedrill just spams like U-turn, gets off like Poison Jabs, knock off again. It's just really good again, like for P2. Gotta be careful with P2, because obviously it can trace the adaptability. That's kind of why I have Empoleon here, because it can kind of take on P2. But I gotta be careful, because that means that Zygarde can't 1v1 it, so gotta play B quite conservatively in this game. It's more kind of better in the late game. Opening, like, early game, it's not bad, but like with other mons on my team, like Empoleon, I can kind of scout what Torn I'm actually up against, and, you know, play around it from there. But Bulu is the next mon. Sorry, I gotta jump skip there. Bulu is the next mon. I'm going with a Choice Scarf set. Enough speed to actually outspeed Tornadus. Mainly because like Woodhammer basically 2 KOs almost everything on his team, even with a Jolly nature, so that's just really, really solid. Especially 2 KOs everything after rocks. So if I get those rocks up early with Empoleon, then Bulu's in a really good spot. Like nothing really can switch in, and if the mon that's in though can't exactly take a Woodhammer, then he's either forced to sack or he's in a pretty bad situation there, which is really nice. Stone Edge is just there for Torn if there's a situation where maybe Bulu wants to come in at the end of the game and Woodhammer can't kill. It's just kind of a Hail Mary play. I could have gone with Return potentially, but like Stone Edge is also just good because it hits Marowak as well if need be, and Mega Horn is mainly just there because that hits the Latios as well as the Rotom Cut, or Rotom, however you want to say it, but hits that one as well, which is really important. Grassy Terrain is really good in this matchup, as I said, you know, with Empoleon and Arcanine then being able to check things like Diggersby a lot better, but it's also kind of a downer because if I use this too early in the game when Mawile is still running around being a threat, then it means that if he goes to the subset, he can just heal back up, and that's so bad for me. So I need to, again, be a little bit more preserving of my Bulu, not use it as often, try and be really conservative. And then finally, now this is currently Choice Scarf, but this is like, we're going to talk about this a little bit in the team build right now. I am so torn on this Kartana set right now, because I love the premise of Choice Scarf because it can just run through his team, but I think I'm going to go back to the original idea that I had, which was the sub SD Salac Berry. I was tinkering around with Scarf, looking at how it went in the matchup, and the tricky thing with Kartana here is, in the matchup I was sometimes struggling to find good opportunities to set up, but the thing with Kartana is, because he can't risk it being potentially scarfed in some situations and getting a beast boost, he can't just like sack off mons willy-nilly, and so he has to switch, and that's where I can go for my sub and take advantage. Like if Mawile comes in expecting the Leaf Blade, then I can just sub up, go for an SD, drop a Smart Strike, and then Mawile's out of there. So there's that play, which is really solid. But this is mainly kind of like the cleaner, I suppose. Like obviously Bulu can clean as well as Beedrill, but this first and foremost, because of the fact it can basically outspeed everything barring Scarf Latios and Scarf Tornadus, is just really, really strong. Leaf Blade plus Smart Strike is the coverage I chose. In hindsight, Night Slash or X's might have been better than Leaf Blade, but because I'm running Grassy Terrain Bulu, it just makes a lot more sense to be able to capitalize on that, because I can send in Kartana with the Adamant nature. He might not actually know that I'm Adamant. I may be Jolly, because that is the risk with this Kartana this week, but actually it's not really a risk. He doesn't have that much between, I believe it's Latios and Diggersby, except for like maybe Rotom Cut, which I don't see him bringing in this matchup, so I can kind of get away with the Adamant Nature and get like huge chunks of damage off. Obviously in Grassy's Rain, even better damage, and if I get off the successful sub and setup, he might not have anything to stop Kartana, so it could come in really clutch and sweep. But that's the team, guys. Obviously the major threats, biggest one for sure is Mawile. It's just because it's Mega Mawile. The other big threats, Trick Room has been kind of annoying, like an offensive Slowbro, offensive P2 are a little bit annoying because that kind of shuts down the Zygarde set that I have planned, but at the same time I do have countermeasures if I need to go with them in that situation. And I guess just the biggest pressure for me, or the biggest issue, is just me making sure that I play properly, like looking at the matchup, understanding what can win, like not just one Mon that can win, but looking at like every single Mon that has potential to do work, and the opportunities they're going to need in a game to do that. But that is going to do it for my team, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this. Hopefully we can get a W this week. We go to 4-2, I think. Yeah, we go to 4-2 if we get the result. If not, we go to 3-3, and that's just not where I want to be right now. 4-2 is what I want to do. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and don't forget to comment down below about how you feel about the team, how you feel we're going to go in our matchup against Asta. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm going to head into this battle now. I'm nervous as fuck. My name is The Bird, and I'm out of this bitch.